I'm going to make a video here on Workzone and its capabilities. So here's a PowerPoint. Looks like it's about 14 pages long. And the contents are about workforce consultation, and then work management solutions, workforce training, and work provider representation. This is sort of the domain of Workzone's interest, but we're also interested in funding. So we'd like to do in crowdfunding or investment options right inside Workzone. Also insurance payments and retirement. That's involved with work provider representation here. Self-sufficiency planning, and also education and work bridge opportunities for education. We're trying to get our arms around all of this. A quick look at Workzone itself. This is actually me. I don't track myself, but for example, Sanjok, he's our lead engineer, and yesterday he worked 5 hours and 19 minutes. Here's his tracker. Also, we can pay from inside here. So I'm managing everybody's, on this team, it's project-based, managing everybody's teams here. There's downloads for your desktop tracker, wage calculator to calculate insurance and to manage the efficiency of your teams. The CMS, and there's also a cloud storage where we can share files with people in the system. Up here is a bit of the tour. This is project-based, so to change project, click on your avatar to get the drop-down menu, and then just choose which project you want to use. You have to invite users into a project, either new ones or existing ones, by email, and they get an email invitation where they join the project. So you invite them here, then all your users show up here after they've been invited in, and you have settings for them, what their permissions are. And then there's the central permissions controller where you can see everything, but also it's page-based as well, so it's a lot easier to manage page-based permissions sometimes. It's a lot easier to get your mind around that. Page-based permissions here, who can invite a new member? Then it looks like me, Sanjok, Vitali, and Andrew can do that, but Abhishek and Suman can't, right? So this is kind of how the permissions work. If you want to monitor the users, here is their basic Gantt chart and their work during the day. There's also hours tracked. There's also weekly time, and there's other charting under weekly time too. Then we can track the workers' attendance. So active days are green. I think I'm on my account here, so it's not going to show. Idle time, productive time, neutral time. We can also have manual time entered by the worker if they forgot to turn on their tracker, which has to be approved before it's released. Here's the productivity ratings where you can allow different apps or disallow different apps to be tracked. And then there's, of course, there's payroll. We can manage and pay our teams from here. You can give them their raises, and it keeps track of your payroll history to any individual. You can have hourly or fixed rates, and it keeps their history here. You can generate invoices from inside Workzone. So this is connected directly to our company bank account, and it pays directly out. So you have to choose your source account and also your allocations here. You just do your accounting as you pay your people. The accounting is actually handled. There's a nice invoice history where you can see a lot of analytics here. Then we have our own accounts, personal accounts and company accounts. If you have a company, these are wallet systems where you can create new wallets, and you can either have an open account or a percent-based account, and percent-based are different. Then you can look at your overall statement, like an accumulation of all of your wallets, so you can see them in one place. You can download them. Here you can look at the ledger, or you can transfer funds between internal accounts, or you can withdraw to a outside bank account here. Accounts can also be scheduled, so they're automated. You can pull the trigger manually, or you can automate your payments. And this is your payment automation for your scheduled transfers. Of course, you have to define them and everything. We have the different downloads for the desktop tracker, Mac, Windows, and Linux for computer geeks. That's sort of an overview. There's more to say here, but a quick overview. And when we're looking at this PowerPoint, the blended workforce analysis, that's where we take an existing company worker profile, which is on the left here, and in a consultation time we will define that with the employer, and then we will make recommendations for a blended workforce modifications, and up here it shows the savings. And then on Workzone we can manage that. We can help the company to manage the entire team. We can provide support staff to do the management for any company needs. We now have a system where we can manage your workforce over time, like if it needs to expand or contract. If there's temporary tasks that need to be done, and you need to do the hiring and management of those tasks, All of that is way easier and a lot more cost efficient when you can access a global distributed workforce, because there are regions which have less regulation. There are regions that have lower socioeconomic demands, and so you can achieve really interesting efficiencies if you have a system like this. Even though we want to optimize our labor force, we don't want to be irresponsible. So some of the more advanced regulations in the U.S., although often onerous, are good structures to make sure that we're being socially responsible no matter what regions our workforces are based in. So for work management solutions, then here's some of our tracking where we don't really want to be the big brother, but what we want to do is create transparency. So if there is any disputes, they're easy to resolve, and that's what the tracking is all about. And sometimes workers are threatened by the prospect of being tracked, but actually it's as much of a protection for the worker as it is for the employer. Workzone has sophisticated tracking in it. Here's for productivity. We can tell which apps are productive, which apps are neutral, which apps are unproductive, and we can define that on a project basis. Workzone is a project-based system. Workzone handles many different gateways, all the way from Stripe to Google Pay to PayPal. Whichever integration you'd like to build into it, we can support that through the Payment Gateway dashboard. As far as payments, however, Workzone has an internal wallet system in this blue area where if transfers happen anywhere within this blue area, there is no charges. It's just the transfer of numbers, basically. But whenever we pull money out of an account, that's when you're going to get some FX charge or some SWIFT fee payment system that's external to Workzone. So this internal wallet system, if you have a system of providers and a network of suppliers, and they all have Workzone accounts, value changes hands. It can change hands 20 times if your Workzone network is deep enough. See, in the outside world, every time money changes hands, there's pennies and dollars taken out of those amounts. But inside Workzone, if there's a network of companies that are connected, there is no pennies or dollars taken out every time there's a transaction. So it's a transactional system internal to itself that does not incur the normal charges that you would see in financial transactions. So when it comes to work provisioning, we talk about whether it's domestic or international, whether it's on-site or remote. You have either contractors or employees, right? We actually prefer contractors almost always, and then we want those contractors, however, to have healthy retirement and healthcare habits. We also have the workforce training, and this is the integration with our learning management platforms. And those services are available if a company needs some training. We can do curriculum creation support. Down here we're talking about corporate structuring, and oftentimes when we have workers, they're just unrepresented. So we'd like them to be legal, and we have services to help them set up their entire business structure. So walk them through that and get that working. We can help them with their setting up their bank accounts either domestically or internationally. We have anti-money laundering personnel and all the systems to secure your transactions so that it never falls under any negative scrutiny by the authorities. Very importantly, down here we're talking about self-sufficiency planning, where there's these different categories where workers could be in crisis economically or they can be at risk. Stable is actually where we're talking about having good health care, a decent retirement plan, so that your plan for the future is efficacious. And thriving is where you're doing really good. So it doesn't matter what region a person is in, we want them to be on this upper trajectory. But for someone who lives in a region where the average income is $1,000 a month, what thriving means from monetary value could be different from what thriving means to someone who lives in a region where $6,000 a month is not enough to pay your bills, right? So we want to provide a balance between the advantages for the work provider and also for the work consumer. There's two sides to that story. However, we do want our workers to have some blue sky and some future earning escalation. And so that's where we will help our workers with work provisioning if they're on our concierge program. We help both our labor consumers and our labor providers to reach better efficiencies. And that's generally what Workzone is all about from a big picture.